There is a small but critical victory for Americans and our otherwise very broken healthcare system. There's a small little glimmer starting January 1st. 2022, the new year, a consumer protection law called the No Surprises Act is coming into effect. That bans most surprise billing that insurance companies and others call balance billing. It's basically when there's all kinds of negotiating behind the scenes between different hospitals, between different insurance providers, between different in-care and out-of-care networks, and they basically shove the bill your way. And that is not going to be allowed going forward. Even when let's say you're never gonna get that bill that says, oh my gosh, you use an out-of-network service, and you were like, what are you talking about? I am using the hospital I always use. This is gonna help 10 million Americans, and it will apply to 10 million surprise bills a year. That's how many surprise bills there have been. So let's read more about the law. Congress approved it actually in late 2020 after a multitude of delays. You can only imagine the lobbyists losing their minds over this. Protects patients when they receive emergency care or scheduled treatment from doctors and hospitals that are not in their insurance networks and that they did not choose. Oftentimes you kind of just get shunted and given somebody. Consumers will be responsible only for their in-network cost sharing in these situations. So again, before that was always the burden of the consumer. It's not gonna be that burden. So as of Jan 1, patients shouldn't receive a surprise medical bill from out-of-network provider in the following scenarios: when you receive emergency care, when you receive care in an in-network health facility, or when you're transported by an air ambulance, so airplane or helicopter. Now, I just wanna note that because sadly, this bill does not cover when you are transported by a ground ambulance. In other words, the majority of emergency transportation, which are ground ambulances. So let's go to graphic number 6. The No Surprises Act also won't cover ground ambulance transportation, even though you have almost no control over who provides the service. That means you still might receive an out-of-network balance for that ambulance. I wanna go back one and say there's a couple other things it doesn't apply to. So addiction treatment facilities, birthing centers, clinics, hospice, nursing homes, or urgent care centers that are not licensed to provide emergency services do not apply. But 10 million less bills that you didn't need, that's huge. I am scratching my head as to how this is going forward. And my God, is the private insurance company going to lose their minds when it actually starts to help people?
Yeah. Well, I have a theory on that, because anytime a bill that actually helps the American people passes, it is a massive exception to the rule of corruption in America. And so you have to it's important to diagnose it, like what went right here? How could this have possibly passed? Almost nothing that helps American people passes through Congress. And by the way, also note, this passed a year ago under Trump, right? Both Democrats and Republicans passed it. And he signed it into law. It's only going into effect now. So the reason, my theory is, this was gonna lead to an actual revolution, because everyone that got a surprise bill, which it was piling up, like a higher and higher percentage of Americans were getting hit with a surprise bill. Everyone that I talked to was in a rage, an absolute rage. So think about this, they still have these giant loopholes in this bill. So ambulances, for example. Well, if you're in the middle of an emergency and you're having a heart attack, are you gonna ask if the ambulance is in network? Are you gonna even think about that? That's absurd, right? And then and are you gonna negotiate? No, I don't want an out-of-network ambulance. Can you send me an ambulance from 28 miles away that's in network? No, that's still not addressed in this bill. So you take an ambulance, and you're playing with your financial life, because they send you bills for $2,000, $4,000, $8,000. It's just literal highway robbery. You're getting robbed on the highway on the way to the hospital. And this bill does not cover non-emergencies at all. So you're gonna go in, let's say you're taking a CAT scan. It's like, we sent the lab results to an out-of-network facility. We never told you, you never asked, you never had any opportunities. Here's your bill for $21,000. Well, they don't have you. But what the powerful people don't understand is they then think, well, I would just call my friend who's a senator, and I would have it just because that's an outrage. I'll have it taken care of, right? No, 99.9% of people don't have a senator friend to call. They're screwed. They're gonna lose their house. They're gonna be homeless. So, no, they're playing with our lives. And when you see stuff like this, I don't think it's at all a surprise that there was a riot against our Capitol. Okay, now people might find that controversial, but I think the right wing lost its mind because of corporate rule and the corporate media that protects it. Like, guys, think about it, man. Yeah, okay, the Trump guys are in a cult, but if you listen to mainstream media, are you sure you're not in a cult? Because mainstream media says, oh yeah, the surprise bills where they ruin your life on a thing that you couldn't possibly control at your weakest, most desperate moment. That makes sense, they say. Medicare for all, universal health care coverage, which every other developed nation has. They say that does not make sense. No, you must pay these random ransoms to these insurance corporations. Otherwise, we're going to let you die. That is not normal. You'd have to be insane to believe that, and that is mainstream media.
Yes, and this is one small piece. I mean, 2 years ago, I did something for mainstream media, which was an hour-long special on MSNBC looking at healthcare. And I spoke to a woman whose son mysteriously fell ill, and she had like 11 different bills from different places. They went to one hospital, but like the 3rd floor was not in network. So, but the 6th floor was, but the 8th floor wasn't. And so when people get sick in this country, they are slammed with so many bills from different kinds of basically private providers, right? That they didn't even know were out of their network because they're often largely never told. You're never told also how much things cost. If you've ever asked, like, hey, how much is a mammogram? Nobody knows, but you're stuck with the bill no matter what. Just so you know how widespread this is, as Cenk was saying, it's important to mention that 1 in 5 currently 1 in 5 emergency room visits and up to 1 in 6 in-network hospitalizations include at least one surprise out-of-network bill. So patients can be hit with more than $1,200 on average which is very low, for anesthesiologist services, $2,600 for surgical assistance, and $750 for childbirth-related care. And that is, again, we've heard horror stories that are way worse than that. So it is a step in the right direction. After what we've been through in the pandemic, I think we deserve far more, i.e. Medicare for all, if not better. But I don't know, guys, when you're being, attended to if you've had an accident, just make sure you ask for the Sky ambulance. Ask for the chopper, not the regular one. I don't know how you do that, but try to remember.
No, the 3rd floor being in network and the 6th floor not being in network is Kafkaesque. They're driving us out of our minds, and the number one culprit is cable news, New York Times, etc. That looks at that and goes, no, this is how it should be, and you should be surprised with a bill you can't possibly pay, and if you can't pay it, you should die. That's normal. No one else does it that way. I'm here, wakey. I'm gonna try to snap you out of the cult of the mainstream. Literally no other civilized country allows their citizens to die. We are alone. We are the only country. And by the way, we're also the richest country. But nonetheless, we allow our citizens to die if they can't afford cancer treatment. That's insane. That is not normal. And we do these surprise billing, which again, at your worst possible time, and we absolutely drive our citizens to ruin. I feel like we're constantly in that Star Wars scene where the garbage vault is closing in, and that's what corporate rule is. And I'm telling you the reason, and this bill is half good, as we explain, and that's why we're explaining a minor miracle that we got a half good bill out of Congress. And the reason is because you want to leave just a little bit so we're not crushed to death. Because if the vault closes too much, well, we're their cash cows. They're milking us until we're dry, and they don't want to kill the cow, right? So that's why you got this half measure out of Congress, so that we don't have a literal revolution. But that's coming. and I don't want it to come, but the greed of corporate rule is infinite. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.